guys, welcome back to my channel. This is Leo's Nerd Talk, and today we're going to be talking about Furiosa. So let's get into that. Hi, my name is Leo, and you guys like talking about anything movies, TV shows, video games, or anything nerdy. You have come to the right place. And like I said, we are talking about Furiosa today. So without further ado, let's get into the review. Alrighty, and now we're going to head into our favorite segment, at least my favorite segment, and that is Bucket Review. And oops, hopefully that didn't sound too loud, but for this installment of Popcorn Bucket Review, we got another one of these plastic buckets. I don't particularly like these that much. I still get them because I like collecting my popcorn buckets, as you guys know. This one's a little bit better than the Fall Guy one that we got a couple of weeks ago because I do prefer the design that this one gives with the Golden Furiosa, and then you have, Morton Joe, Chris Hemsworth character, Furiosa and stuff. So I definitely prefer this one than the Fall Guy one that we got in not too long ago. And this one, just like the Fall Guys, does come with a cup as well. So it's a bucket cup combo for a pretty decent price. I'm assuming they do these because they're cheap to make and they don't have to charge as much as some of the other buckets. Most of these popcorn buckets can be $35, $40. This combo is only like 22 bucks. So it's nice because you get a little bit of a combo. You can use these at home. You can drink out of this at home. So it makes it worth it in the sense where you get multiple stuff. But at the end of the day, this plastic bucket is not the nicest. I wish they did something a little bit better. I wish they gave us the metal tin. I prefer the metal tin over these plastic buckets. But overall, I enjoy this bucket. I think it's pretty cool. It has a nice design. The poster of Furiosa is pretty cool, pretty badass. So overall, it's a fun bucket. I like it. I'm glad I still got it. Now, Furiosa takes us back right before Fury Road and kind of gives us a little bit of a background origin story about Furiosa herself when she was a child and also when she's a little bit older, and the events that took place to kind of create a lot of what Fury Road was and what happens during Fury Road. So it was very interesting to go back and see a little bit of her origin story, kind of where she came back from. There's certain things that, maybe we could have left without, certain things that were pretty nice to see, but we'll get into that when we go into the pros and cons. So without further ado, let's get into the pros. And the pros for me is, of course, Furiosa as a character. I think she's very interesting. I think Anya Taylor-Joy played her very well. She was very menacing and very much of a badass throughout the entire movie. She definitely has a lot of quick wits, probably learning from her mother that she kind of speaks really goodly about how her mom kind of taught her a lot of things. Her mom was the best mother ever and stuff like that. But you can definitely see how the skills of her mom translate into Furiosa, and you can definitely see how Anya Taylor-Joy kind of takes that role and definitely makes it her own. It's a little bit different, but it's still a very badass character throughout the entire movie. And speaking of badass characters, we also do have Jack, which is kind of like the main driver in the Immortan Joe's kind of crew. He's the one that was always driving the war rigs and stuff like that. So seeing him was pretty cool. He kind of fit that role of Max. You don't really see Max too much in this movie, but he kind of filled in that role of being like the Max. But even though this movie is definitely focused more on Furiosa and her journey and her character arc and her being kind of the main badass in this entire film. So Furiosa is definitely the main focus, of course, being the name of the movie is her name, but you do have those other characters that still kind of fill in those spots of other characters that we tend to miss. And of course, action is still pretty dang well. Practical effects, of course, there's still some CGI in there to kind of make the bigger moments with, obviously bodies flying everywhere and explosions and all that stuff. But for the most part, there is a good amount of practical effects in this, so it's still very very recognizable to all the other previous Mad Maxes where practical effects and explosions are still happening real time on screen. So that's always really nice to see. There's a lot of badass car chases and explosions and crashes and, high octane energy. So they're still going to get that in this movie. They do that in a very, very well manner. So there's a lot of awesome action that you're definitely gonna love in this movie for sure. I also like still just being in this world. This is just such a fun world to be in the wasteland. We do see a lot more of the different kind of strongholds, more in depth. Like you have like the Bullet Farm, you have Gas Town, of course the actual main city. I can't remember what it's called at the time, the Citadel. the Citadel stuff. So you do get a little bit more depth inside of those places. So it's nice to see all that and kind of still building off of that wasteland world. It's definitely amazing sets. You know, I'm sure there's some CGI and green screen. You can kind of tell there's some green screen in certain areas, but overall, I still enjoy seeing those sets and places on screen. They're still pretty damn awesome, and you're constantly going back and forth between all the different kind of strongholds throughout the entire movie. So it's fun still living within this world. This world has still so much to kind of build upon, and you can go pretty much anywhere within this wasteland world. It's an awesome, awesome world to kind of have a movie in. And not that I think this is a spoiler or anything, but if you do consider this a spoiler, skip 20 seconds ahead. We're going to get out of the spoilers there pretty soon, but just in case, fair warning. However, this is something that's really cool that this being a Mad Max movie, you don't really get Mad Max in it except for one scene. You know, I'm assuming this is him because you see a figure out on the top of a mountain in the iconic Mad Max car, and he's eating his food out of his can, like you see Mel Gibson do in the previous movies, and he's just looking out in the distance of what's happening to Furiosa. So I thought that was pretty cool. A little kind of like, there's Max. You know, this is a Mad Max movie. There he is. So I thought that was actually pretty cool. And when I saw that, I was like, oh, Max. So it was pretty cool. And I do enjoy this kind of little revenge story that Furiosa kind of goes on. She's very, like I said, very intelligent, and very much a badass. So she does it very methodically and strategically. She's not reckless in her revenge story that she's going through. So I really enjoy how she kind of goes about that. She, like I said, she's very much of a badass. So she takes a beating. You see how she gets her metal arm, like you see in Fury Road. That's pretty cool as well to see. So there's a lot of interesting things about Furiosa that we didn't really ask questions about in Fury Road. At least I didn't. But you do get some cool answers to it and kind of see where she kind of came from, and it's kind of a little badass revenge story that she goes on. So I do enjoy the overall story arc that she kind of goes on from her being a child, because the first 30 to 45 minutes of this movie is her when she was a child, and then we get uh, thrown into the later years right before Fury Road happens. And I enjoyed Chris Hemsworth. He was fun in this role. It wasn't as menacing and as badass as I thought his role was going to be. We'll get a little more into that in the cons, but I enjoy Chris Hemsworth, what he gave him, what he gave us with what he was given in this role. It's a fun character to see on screen. It's a fun character for Furiosa to go to and try to get her revenge with. So Chris Hemsworth did a great job for what he was given. And lastly, I like the way this movie kind of just wrapped up. There's things that happen between Furiosa and Chris Hemsworth's character that I thought were pretty interesting, pretty cool, pretty awesome in Furiosa's sense of what she did, and then the way this just ties up right into the events of Fury Road. I didn't think this was gonna happen like literally right before Fury Road. I thought this was maybe a couple of years before, and it kind of throws you off because Anna Taylor-Joy does look younger, of course, than Charlize Theron. So you would think that this was a younger version of Furiosa, but no, this is the exact like same week that Fury Road happened. So it's pretty cool to kind of see how it all ties in together, how it all wraps in, and how the events of Fury Road kind of come to be because of what Furiosa kind of does. But with that being said, let's go ahead and get into the cons. And let's start off with Chris Hemsworth, just because he was kind of a little bit of a mixed bag for me. And I like the character. I don't really think I like the voice that he kind of portrays. It's a little cartoonish in that sense. He wasn't as menacing as I was hoping to be. He kind of seemed like a leader of a group that didn't know how to lead. He was stumbling. He was very arrogant, and when things are going wrong, he'll blame his crew. He wouldn't take responsibility. He wouldn't try to fix it. So he was definitely one of those characters that was a bit strange. He thought he was the shit, and he kind of gets shown very, very easily why he's not. And Morton Joe kind of puts him in his place very fast. So the revenge story kind of loses a little bit of that flavor when your main antagonist to Furiosa isn't as threatening as you thought they were going to be from the trailers. And that's kind of where you get a little bit of that disappointment in the story. But overall, I think Chris Hemsworth did, like I said, a good enough job for what he was given. But they did kind of downplay his his character and kind of how menacing he actually was. And the thing that everybody always hates about prequels is this going to answer questions that I care about? You know, did I really want this movie? Did did watch when watching Fury Road, am I really that invested that I want to know Furiosa's background story? Part of me says no. I did not want to. I didn't care enough. I When I was watching Fury Road, Fury Road was one of my favorite action movies of all time, probably one of my favorite movies in my top 100 of all time. And I don't think I've ever watched that movie and say, huh, I wonder where Furiosa comes from, you know, because you get enough of Furiosa's background through dialogue and through like visions in Fury Road, if I remember correctly. The time of recording this, I haven't rewatched Fury Road yet, but uh, yeah, like there's an intrigue of that character. You're interested in that character. You think that character is a pretty badass character, but do I want a whole movie about her background story? And that's where I'm a little iffy about it. I don't know if I did. I enjoyed the movie. I definitely enjoyed the movie. I'm glad we got it because I definitely want more movies within this universe. But did I need this one? Would I would have preferred a sequel? Would I preferred a movie that takes place in a different era? A movie that doesn't focus on Max, but also doesn't go back in time. You know, completely different storyline as a whole. You know, so that's where I feel like I'm a little bit of a mixed bag on this movie. It definitely showed a lot of things that I thought were very interesting about Furiosa that I thought were actually very good and a good plot to focus on with her. But one thing that I didn't like is that we focused a little too much about when she was like a little girl. And like I said, that's about 30, 40 minutes of the movie. You know, I wanted to focus more on the adult Furiosa because that first act or so, it was okay. You know, it didn't put me on the edge of my seat, you know, ready for a Mad Max movie. It didn't feel like that high octane action until we get to the middle and third act. And even then, there's still certain pacing that I the movie felt way longer than the 2.5 hour. You know, it just felt like a 3 hour, 15 minute movie. You know, so I was sitting there thinking that this movie was about to be over, and you know, I look at my phone real quick, you know, trying to hide the glare in the movie theater, and there's still 40 minutes left, and I'm like, damn, like this movie feels long. So I mean, this was a great movie. It was definitely a fun movie. I just don't think it met my expectations of Fury Road. I think Fury Road is still a much better movie. I'm going to rewatch it right now, right after I film this review. But I still think that's a much better movie. So this is kind of like a contender between Furiosa and Road Warrior are like neck and neck for me. I don't know which one I like better, but you know, there's a lot of things that this movie did well. You know, I'm not gonna say that it didn't do well. This sounds like I'm bashing on it, but there's a lot of things this movie did well. It's an amazing action movie, definitely one of the better movies that we've gotten this year. There is just certain aspects of it that I didn't think completely worked. And if we were going to get a background story of Furiosa, I was hoping we were going to get a little bit more background and intrigue of the Immortan Joe. I thought we were going to get a little bit more about Immortan Joe and how he kind of came about, how he became this kind of warlord, how he became the leader of the War Boys and this whole Valhalla thing. Like I thought we were going to get a little bit more of that. Like I would have probably preferred a Immortan Joe Mad Max origin story than a Furiosa origin story. Probably that just sounds more interesting to me because Immortan Joe is such an interesting, crazy character. Like I want to see how he kind of built this empire that he did with the War Boys and this, you know, the Citadel and talking about Valhalla and all that stuff. Like that just sounds like such a badass movie that I probably would have preferred to see. I wish we got a little bit more into Immortan Joe's background as well. But overall, let me know what you guys thought about Furiosa and Mad Max Saga. I actually really enjoyed it. There's just things that didn't work for me. I thought pacing was a little off, but overall, it was a fun movie. I didn't leave upset or anything like that. So I definitely highly recommend it. Definitely watch it in theaters. It's still a very badass movie to watch on the big screen in big picture. So definitely go check it out. And again, if you guys like Tell Me Anything movies, TV shows, or video game related, make sure to hit that like and subscribe button. And I'll see you guys on the next review. Thank you.